What is up, YouTube mechanics? Okay, so as the title says, um, I am just going to give some tips on doing the timing belt on these Kia Rio. I think it's '06 to 2011, and similar years for the Hyundai Accent. Um, I am not a licensed mechanic, and I'm a newbie. And I'm just going to share some things with you that I wish I knew when I was doing the job. It's a job that you can definitely do yourself, I feel. But this is a couple things that key to take into consideration is you're going to be taking off the timing belt, the serpentine belt, and also the power steering belt. And so it's a good time to check up on those to see if they're good. My take on it is you take a look at it, and if you see cracks, definitely 100% replace it. Mine had uh, my power steering pump belt had a lot of cracks on it. That's like 20 bucks. But I could tell that the serpentine belt's probably about half life, but I just don't want to go in there again, so I replaced both of them. You should also replace the timing belt kit comes with the belt, and it comes with a tensioner and also another pulley that is there as well. Um, so I'd recommend that you replace all of those, and in all fairness, I'd also recommend that you change out the water pump. The water pump on this car, this is just to say that these cars are very well built, so I'm gonna ride these out until used car prices fall back down. But those things, they don't last too long. They usually last about 150,000 kilometers. I'm in Canada, so we use kilometers. And so I replaced that. The bolts are right in behind where the timing belt is. So if your water pump fails, then you kind of have to take it all apart anyway. Like, now that I know how to do it, I could probably do it in about probably 2 hours. But the first time, well, when I did it, it took me about 3 hours. I'll show you so you guys know that when I replaced it, my car actually starts and there's no belt noises or anything like that. But I do want to share with you guys a few things that I wish I knew before I actually did this job. So, all right, it's raining a bit outside, and I'm gonna sacrifice myself, but I'll still make this video. And I don't know if you guys have this problem, but on this car, the hood latch, it doesn't work that good. You can pull on it, it just doesn't pull. It doesn't give like any tension. But what I do is I hold it with my right hand, and I reach over top of this little joint, and I bang on the hood, and that always opens it up. Just like that. So if you have the same problem as me, then go ahead and just bang on the hood and it'll be fine. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so this is the engine, obviously. And so if you're going to be doing both of them, I'd recommend you also change out the coolant. The glycol inside of the coolant turns into glycolic acid, and that's pretty hard on the radiator and all the metal fittings and the maybe even the gaskets if it turns acidic. But so I'd recommend you take this, you dump the system. There's a little valve. All it is one screw at the very bottom of the radiator. You can see the hole down there for where that screw is. And you just dump it out. When you take out your water pump, it's going to also leak a lot of fluid out of there, so just be prepared for that. But the things I wish I knew is that on this power steering pump, this bolt right here is what creates the tension for this belt, and you should have some sway in this. When I put this on, the one thing that they didn't mention is that they basically just said like wrench on this and tighten it up, but when I tried to start it, it didn't start, and it was really struggling, and it's because this was too tight that the engine couldn't turn over, and that's just not ideal situation. Also, the other thing is, when you do put these belts on, in my opinion, it's probably better to have them a little bit loose than tight. And when you do start the car, give it, like, if it doesn't start right off the start, then don't keep trying to crank it over, because you might have over tightened one of these belts. And like everyone kind of says, like, it's like about as, what is it called, as tight as, you could turn it about 90 degrees, and like that's about it. And I guess you should barely, in my opinion, like you should barely be able to do the bottom, the serpentine belt at 90 degrees. This one here, this one here, this one had to be a lot looser for everything to kind of work properly for it. The other thing that they don't really mention is that, well, on a couple of them they did, is that the engine turns this way. It turns counterclockwise. So when you're doing that, when you get it all aligned, you align the top dot here, and then there's a little marking on the pulley at the bottom. When you mark those out, then when you crank the engine, crank it this way, and don't crank it this way, because this is the way that the engine naturally turns. And I actually had to do it a few times and realign it, because I don't know if like the tensioning was out, but it just didn't, like I noticed that after I turned it a couple times, the alignment was off by about a groove or two on the gear. So that's what I experienced. And also a really good tip that a few of them had was, when you do the tensioner, when you crank it over twice, go back to the tensioner, loosen it up, and then just kind of play with it a little bit. And mine actually like tightened just a little bit more naturally after it went around a couple times. That was a good one. The other thing that they didn't mention in the videos was, when you are aligning it, don't put the belt on at the top. The gearing is a lot bigger at the top. Align the bottom first, and then put the timing belt on at the bottom, and then keep it tight across like the one bearing that you're going to replace. And if you do have to make adjustments, make the smallest adjustment just a little bit forward on this gear, and don't make adjustments at the bottom. The reason why is because this one moves at half the speed as the bottom, because it's twice as big. And gosh, what else was there? I think that was basically it. Like the other guys, they do a really good job of explaining it, but these were just a couple things I wish I knew before I did it, so maybe I can save you guys a little bit of time. The other tip that's really good is, when you do drain the whole cooling system, if you do the water pump too, is make sure you do 50-50. What is it called? Either get concentrated as diluted 50-50, or just buy 50-50 coolant. And when you start the engine, you want to make sure that you fill up the coolant from this reservoir over here, and make sure that the coolant, this reservoir is full. And just leave this open, and that'll get rid of the air bubbles that accumulate in the system. What might happen is you might cause, I can't remember what it's called, it's like deadheading the pump or something like that, if you get air in the system and it compresses the air instead of the fluid. So just leave this open, and you'll see little bubbles come up, and you'll probably have to fill it a little bit past that. For me, it took I think it's 1 4-liter container of water and 1 4-liter concentrated glycol. And yeah, that was it for this one. I used the glycol, which is used for all automotive makes. But yeah, anyway, I hope that helped out. Bye.